Hi there, and good morning to everybody. Welcome to the next episode of our series of Let's Keep the Conversation Going. Today, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by somebody I've known for 25 years plus, a broker, leading broker, real successful business that this chap runs. It's Peter Simpson from MIMHC Limited, and Pete, obviously you and I have known each other for a number of years, but probably a good starting point is to maybe just give our listeners a bit of an idea of your background and maybe when you started MME up and how that has actually played out.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, to be fair, MME was started out of default rather than out of choice. I spent the first part of my working life in the Navy as a chef. Came out of the Navy after 15 years to get a job as cooking. But my humour and chefing didn't go with Civvy Street. So I seen an advert for a mortgage broker at that time. He didn't want any or need any exams. So I went along, and it was probably the best lesson I've ever learned, because the gentleman I worked for was a tyrant, but he taught me so much. I then moved into the lending side of things. So I wanted to see the lending. And from there, I got a call to go and help develop a brokerage in Leicestershire, which didn't go too well. And I then left to set up on my own because of legal issues around that brokerage. And since then, probably not really looked back.
Amazing. And obviously this topic, this mental health and wellbeing topic, it's something you're personally passionate about. I know we've chatted aside from this, but can you just maybe give a bit of help us understand why you decided to become a signatory and how important mental health and wellbeing is to yourself?
Yeah, I think it's from a personal point of view, and then that leads into the industry. From a personal point of view, without harping on too much, I left home at 15 to join the Navy because I was battered as a boy, and within probably 3-4 months of me being in the Navy, I was at a place I never even heard of called the Falklands, sitting on a ship with an XF missile approaching, which teaches you a lot of life lessons. And I had to go for help afterwards, not because I was mental, because I couldn't understand the death I'd seen in front of me. And I was taught at a very young age that your mind's like a computer screen. If you don't close the computer screen down, you just minimize it. If you see something that affects that computer screen, it'll bring it back up. And that's carried me through life. To the personal point of view, that I've been married 32 years this year, and I've got 2 fantastic boys, 16 and 14, but we lost 6-7 children. So I could put things in perspective. My wife, bless her, this has had not a very good effect throughout her life because she didn't know how to handle these things, and that led to depression and anxiety. So I've seen both sides of it to try and manage it. And then within the mortgage industry, the pressures that we're under, that I think it takes a strong mind to battle through these.
Yeah, and the importance of conversation then, and I suppose I'm interested in understanding who you maybe turn to and how you actually, what your coping mechanisms actually are in terms of dealing with those those challenges going back to the Falklands, and then
I think, to be fair,
day to day.
As men, who do we turn to? And that's the biggest barrier we've got to break down. I say I've been so fortunate in them life lessons. Some people don't have them life lessons, and some blokes, men, even women, don't reach out because they feel, I don't know, what do they feel? They feel as if they're a failure, or who can they speak to, or why do you want to share that problem with him? My coping mechanisms are, in theory, self-preservation, which is, I think if you've got a strong mind, if you've got a strong body, you've got a strong mind. So if you can work on yourself and help yourself, I go to the gym every morning. I used to do a lot of cycling, as you well know, and it just allows me to be free to think about other things. So really, I turn to myself, which is not the answer you probably wanted, because how do people cope with this generally? I think it's just giving somebody an ear. I mean, at the moment, I've got one of my consultants that's in a real bad place, again, due to personal issues. And I think we're all too quick to say we've all got problems, but you've got to sit down and listen to these people, talk to them, and just give them the benefit of your experience.
I was going to say, what kind of steps do you actually take then to when you identify you've got somebody within the team who's maybe struggling, you've got this wealth of experience to call back on personally. But how do you support the team around you?
Well, each person's different. There's two of us are not the same. What works for me might not work for another person.
Yeah.
And the gentleman I've got at the moment, I know he's close to his children. So I took a different approach with him. I took his children out with him just for a bite to eat, just to escape the everyday life, just so he's got somebody else to talk to and he can share his problems with. Now I can't solve them problems because I'm not medical, but if I listen to him, if I talk to him, if I give him my experience, he then will help that way.
Mm. And what kind of things do you feel actually cause the mental health issues? So obviously, trauma and what you must have saw, back in the day must have been incredibly challenging. But what type of, your experience, what causes poor mental health?
I think it's a number of things, isn't it? It's feeling alone, it's feeling isolated, it's not being able to deal with it, it's not being able to talk to anybody, it's not being able to share a problem. There's an old adage that a problem shared is a problem halved. It may be not, but if it feels as if you've spoke to somebody about it, it helps. And what I've said to my consultant is, your problems won't go away overnight. It's like the Sahara Desert, a little wind will blow a grain of sand every day. And after a couple of months, this grain of sand it starts developing a barrier. So it helps you get around it. So it doesn't happen overnight. It has to be worked on every day.
Mm. And post-COVID, obviously, we've seen this hybrid working and more people working from home. What part do you think that can play on somebody's mental health? The fact that we've got this working from home environment.
Massive problem, because people like me, I'm at home isolated in the office and you don't talk to people. And the key thing is to pick up the phone and talk to people. I don't think, you've got lenders sending you emails and calling you all the time, but you need that escape route. You need to take time away from the desk to speak to people, just about anything, be it football, although we won't mention that this weekend, or anything like that, just to something different, because we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to achieve the same end goal. And sometimes it's difficult to see that.
Yeah. And maybe spotting those early signs. I mean, again, it's even more difficult if people are working from home. And how do you, I suppose, try and interact frequently with your team so that those early signs can be spotted? And what actually are those early signs?
I think it's getting to know the team properly. With certain people, they go quiet. And with other people, it's the way they respond back to you. You know if there's something amiss. We have a team meeting once a quarter, and on that team meeting, we have a team meeting in the morning, then we have fun in the afternoon, be it go-karting, anything like that, just to try and bring everybody together and have a laugh and a joke, because this journey we're on called life is far too short. So we have to make the most of it.
Yeah. And before you touched on this, I suppose, I don't know if it's alpha male or just the bloke's way of dealing with things is this kind of approach we have where, again, it can be seen as a sign of weakness to reach out. But what about employers and leaders of business in terms of, it can sometimes take courage to actually reach out and say, I need some help. But that discrimination that's been there in the workplace has been there for years. Although I think we've got some green shoots, and our recent survey suggests we've got more companies providing provision than ever before, which is a step in the right direction. But just that discrimination, do you think it does still exist, and how do we break it down?
I think there's discrimination, there's a stigma as well, isn't there? Stigma to own up that you're struggling, and discrimination to then, if you are struggling, to be discriminated against because you probably wouldn't get that extra bit of work or that. So it is such a difficult one. And what doesn't help is people's opinions. Yeah. So that's all they are, our opinions. They don't really matter. It's what you think and what you feel. I think from a leadership point of view, you've got to know your team and know when somebody's not quite right. Now, it's difficult if you've got 100 employees, But then if you keep putting things out there that, you know, if somebody needs to talk or there's something wrong or something doesn't fit, you've got to be open to accept that. But likewise, you've also got to be open to accept criticism within that. But wouldn't it be better to accept criticism within that rather than then a couple of weeks down the line have a bigger issue?
Yeah, yeah. And what do you think individuals could do if the boss isn't maybe as sympathetic and attentive as you are? What should individuals do if it's just falling on deaf ears?
But there is a line of management in a lot of companies that are large, aren't they? With my company, because we're not that large, it's me. And if I wasn't sympathetic, where do they go? It's a difficult one. What they've got to do is then speak to other people within the team and try a different approach, because not all roads lead to Rome. You can take a different route to get there, can't you? And if I wasn't sympathetic, I'd want to be called out.
Yeah.
You've always got to be mindful of people's feelings. You know, I never have road rage. If somebody pulls out in front of me or somebody's up my backside, so what? You don't know what's going on in their life. So how can I judge them because I don't know them?
And you kind of gave a bit of a flavour of the coping mechanisms you used a little bit earlier. And I know chatting to a group of people doesn't necessarily come naturally or easy for you, but just dealing with those bad days, what kind of hints and tips would you give to people to help them get through if they're just having a particular poor day?
It's all in the mind, isn't it? It's only a passing phase. When I have bad days, you know, some things that I've seen in the past or has happened personally in the past, something will trigger that bad memory. You've got to take yourself into the good places you've been. You know, be it on a beach, be it on a holiday, be it watching a football match, anything, just because the mind is such a powerful thing. And you've got on each shoulder, you've got, you know, a good monkey and a bad monkey. And if you let the bad monkey kick the shit out of the good monkey, you're going to lose. So you've got to be strong and rise above and take your mind elsewhere. And it's easier said than done at times. But put a song on that reminds you of a good thing, or, you know, look through photos that remind you of something. Just try and take your mind away, because the mind is such a powerful, powerful tool that nobody will never understand, but you can control it to a degree. Yeah.
And what about, I suppose, work-life balance and look, I think the conversations that we've had previously, I think it's less about work-life balance and more about this work-life integration now. So how do you try and get that? How do you deliver that to the family unit? Because obviously you work extremely hard. You have the stress and strains of taking a mortgage from inception to completion, and you're trying to lead a group of people to be successful. How do you manage to get that work-life balance, work-life integration right for yourself?
I think it's self-discipline. You invest in yourself. You've got to invest in yourself, because if I start going downhill, my family suffer, my team suffer, my work suffers. So you've got to invest in yourself. There's got to be clear boundaries. You know, I will finish work at a certain time. Yes, the phone's always on and you're answering emails. But if I don't invest in me, my family won't have the life they've got. And ultimately, that's what I do it for, is my boys.
Yeah, yeah. And what about, so we spoke a moment ago about maybe what coping mechanisms individuals can have. What do you think business leaders can do to support their staff? So what kind of actions can they take? And obviously becoming a signatory to the charter has been a statement of intent, and really chuffed that you decided to do that. But what kind of actions and behaviours can and should employers actually undertake?
I think it's just being human. Understand that everybody's different. There's not one size fits all, and what's good for Jason might not be good for Peter. So I think it's you have to know your team, because you have to know what makes them tick and what gets them down and what motivates them. But ultimately, we've got to encourage people to invest in themselves. Be it if you just go out for a walk in the mornings, rather than straight into your desk, straight doing emails, because you haven't got your time. Your mind's not got time to develop or think about the day. I do lists, and I like ticking my list. And every time I tick something off the list, it's an achievement. So it's all about knowing the individuals. Yes, it'll be difficult if you've got a team of 200, 300, 400 But then you've got managers within that management, so you've got to tier it down, because there's no one better investment than investing in somebody to get the best out of them. And like I say, this journey's far too short. We don't want to spend it by worrying, stressing.
Yeah, I think just a couple of things from a recent conversation I had with Clark Carlisle, actually interpreting the survey. What he spoke about was this importance of being in the present. So again, like you just said there, Pete, he mentioned the importance of investing in yourself and having the discipline to invest in yourself and not cut corners on that. We also spoke about that importance of presenteeism. And people talk a lot about mental health affecting absence and affecting number of days lost. But what he said, which I thought was kind of linked to what you were just touching on, was just the importance of being in the present and maybe not having the distractions, and if somebody's not in the present, it's just having that ability to be perceptive enough to identify and try and support them in the right way. But I just this focus that there's been on absenteeism and the impact that has, and I just thought this presenteeism was really thought-provoking.
It is, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. Yesterday we can't change. We can only alter what we're doing now.
Yeah.
You mentioned Clark Carlisle, that's been through a lot. I've been speaking a lot to Matt Piper, who's been on a similar journey himself. And he is now investing in himself. He's more positive, and he lives for today, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. But the mind is such a powerful thing. And when you're down there, it's easier. It's not easy to get up. When you're up there, it's easier to keep yourself up. But it's what we give triggers to help them people to get up to that stage.
Yeah, I like that idea, Pete, that you emphasised a few times now about if you're in having dark thoughts, just finding those triggers that make you happy, whether it's a piece of music I think you mentioned, or maybe looking at some photos. It's just finding stuff that has seen you in a really positive place previously, isn't it?
It is. It's triggered, isn't it? And it goes back to the computer screen. If you don't deal with something and close that computer screen down that's negative, if you see something that triggers it, it's going to pop it back up. It's going to go from minimize to full screen. So you've got to learn how to not minimize that, but to shut that screen down totally. Now, it's always there. It's always in the past, and it will always come and sometimes bite you on the backside. But then if you can get them positive things in place to keep them computer screens closed, I think it's the best way. Music for me, when I was in the 40s, when I know I used to listen to certain bits of music, and if someone wants to come on now, it puts me in a different place totally.
Yeah.
So if I'm driving and I'm starting to think negative things, I just search for these certain songs.
And what about the future, Pete? What does the future hold? So obviously you've got some really nice momentum. The business is established, and I suppose, like all brokers, we all feel the ups and downs of the market. It's a particularly challenging time, I suppose, with on the back of the cost of living, and we've still got some challenges, I suppose, with some lenders. But how do you look forward to the future now?
The future's not guaranteed, is it? So tomorrow, if I'm here tomorrow, it's a bonus. And I've got a mantra that nothing is a problem, it's just how we deal with it. Whether it's a declined mortgage or somebody that's not happy with you, the easiest way is to bury your head. But if you hit it head on, I think you're in a lot better position and situation. So nothing is a problem, it's just how we deal with it. But the future, like I say, is not guaranteed. So you've got to live for the moment. You can plan for the future, but like everything, the plans always come off. No, I planned Leicester to be in the Premiership next year, but it didn't work, did it? But then that's not a problem, because there's football still there. So I'm still watching football, and I might get more tickets now, because I'm trying to save, instead of queuing for tickets, I might get more tickets to see more football. So there's a solution to every problem.
You can always come and watch. You can always come and watch my team, Pete. When if you get stuck. So for listeners, Pete's unfortunately a Leicester City fan and they were relegated yesterday from the Premiership, whereas I'm living the Manchester City dream. So we tend not to talk about football too much.
Man City, you've shown how you've come from the depths and you've built it up. They are a different breed at the moment. So what makes Haaland better than anybody else is his mindset.
Yeah.
Because we're all born the same to a degree. There's only very few gifted footballers that are born with a gift. Gascoigne, you know.
Yeah.
The others have to work and work and work at it. And that's what we have to do with our mind, is work and work and work at it.
Yeah.
And we never, it's like a ladder. You never get to the top of this ladder, but you're always taking another step. And every day is school day, and you learn something new every day.
Yeah. Look, I like the facts you mentioned, you know, just tackling issues head on and not procrastinating, so that, you know, that issue isn't going to go away. So it's tackling it head on and tackling it in a timely fashion. But it's also about, as you've emphasised, put yourself in good headspaces as and when it's required to get through those challenging times.
If you let a problem lie, it gets watered, it gets fed, and it manifests, and it starts eating away at you. But if you can get it out of the way as soon as possible, no matter how unpleasant it is, but you learn from that situation, you learn from that experience. So next time it happens, you say, well, this time I do it this way.
Yeah, agreed. Look, I love this focusing on things positive, and whatever they may be, find them to get you into that headspace, investing in yourself and being disciplined to invest in yourself. I really love that. And this tackling issues head on, and you know, look, the fact that future isn't guaranteed, and you can only control what's in your control, but ultimately control that as best you can, you know, seems to be a real mantra that you live with. What about in terms of, you know, has there been any? We've covered a fair bit there. I know we've not delved deeply into, you know, some of your personal experiences, but I don't think we need to, Pete. I think, you know, you're obviously an experienced guy who's lived a lot and care for the team around you, and you try to support them in the best possible way you can do, you know, responsively and quickly. Was there anything that maybe I've not asked that maybe I could have asked, or anything else you wanted to actually maybe indicate to people who are listening, just about just mental health and well-being, or about, you know, why you became part of the charter? Was just anything else you wanted to add?
I think I became part of the charter because I think it's important that if people speak out, other people know they can speak out. And if somebody can just reach out to anybody, I might not know somebody, and so if somebody could reach out to me, like I said, there's nothing a problem. So if somebody comes to me, they've got a mental health issue, you don't judge them, you sit and talk to them. And what lights their fire might not light somebody else's fire. So we're all equal. We're all born naked. We're all going to the same place. What we do in between makes us as a person.
Yeah.
And when we get to the end and he pulls that ball out and he says, right, Jason, did you enjoy that? And you say, I wish I'd have done X, Y, and Z. You don't get that chance, so do it now.
Yeah.
And mental health or your mind is such a powerful, powerful tool, but there's only one person can control it. Yeah. And that's yourself. Some people try and control it with alcohol, and I've had experience of that, and others with drugs. And that's not because they're weak, it's because they see that as an escape. But if we can show them there's another escape route, or that there's another way out, it's not going to happen overnight. And again, because I've got personal experience of drink issues, but show people there is another way. And it goes back to the Sahara and the sand, and build it up slowly, and it blows and then builds a mountain up.
Hey, look, what wise words, Pete. And look, I think, you know, becoming a signatory and signing up to the charter, it gives people the opportunity to reach out. We're not trying to portray ourselves with the charter as experts. We're not trying to do anything other than, you know, ensure that the website's got useful reference material, it's got best practice frameworks that people can adopt, but it's also got, you know, pathways to professional experts. And I think one of the other things, you know, we've got about to be developed on there is, you know, access to, you know, people like ourselves, Pete, in terms of if somebody is struggling and they want to have a conversation, it's just having that accessibility to just have a chat, simple as that. So look, I'm really chuffed and proud that you decided to sign up. You know, really am. great to have you as a mate. It was brilliant catching up a few weeks ago, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be part of this. And look, if it helps one person in terms of the content, then that's great. But I just really appreciate you being part of this series of conversations.
No, I think, to be fair, from my point of view, I'm honoured that you've asked me, and I feel that if I can just make one person think slightly differently to change that course, and it's not about gaining something for yourself, it's seeing that other person develop and probably become a little bit stronger or a little bit more aware of what's happening.
Yeah, great. Look, thanks for your time, Pete, and really appreciate it. So good luck for the rest of the year, and I'm sure I'll catch you soon.
Probably not in the Premier League, but yeah.
All right, thanks, Pete.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.